The U.S. State Department expelled 2 Cuban officials in May after American diplomats suffered from a variety of physical ailments in Havana. U.S. officials are reportedly looking into whether the symptoms were caused by a possible type of acoustics device that was either outside the homes of embassy workers or inside, provided by the Cuban government. Now, we want to get some more information on this. We're going to bring in Steve Dorsey of CBS Radio News. He joins us now from Washington. Steve, this is a very interesting story. We know there were symptoms and the idea of some sort of acoustics device placed in or around where these officials were working. Tell us more about this. What were the symptoms and what do we believe so far might have been the causes?
Well, one source familiar with these incidents describes these physical symptoms, which is what the State Department is calling them, as hearing loss, headaches, constant and painful, exhaustion, sleeplessness, and other symptoms. They say that the U.S. is currently looking into the possibility of those acoustic devices you mentioned were planted perhaps inside or outside the homes of U.S. embassy workers. Those homes are provided by the Cuban government. And now there's new reporting from our colleague in Havana that says a top Canadian embassy official experienced the same symptoms at their home in Havana.
Very interesting. So a number of these embassy officials actually cut their tenure short because of these symptoms. And we started hearing about the symptoms at the end of 2016, but the State Department only took action to expel Cubans from this country in May. Why was that?
Well, we want to know why the U.S. waited so long to confirm this, especially. But the U.S. says it did this in taking further action against Cuba, though it does not have a clear, definitive answer on the source or cause of these incidents or its symptoms. It says it does have an obligation, Cuba at least, under the Vienna Convention to protect its diplomats. And this is something the State Department says is taking very seriously, and it's a major concern.
In a statement, Marco Rubio said that the Cuban government, and these are his words, has been harassing U.S. personnel working in Havana for decades. Has there been a history of complaints by U.S. officials working on the island?
Absolutely. This has been going on in terms of harassment for decades, since going back to the start of the Cold War. We've seen reports and heard reports over the years of intimidation by Cuban security officials, reports of home break-ins, even reports of poisoned pets.
So what are we hearing from the Cuban government? Is the government reacting?
Yeah, they put out a statement last night from the foreign ministry, basically dismissing all of these allegations, all of the response, especially from the U.S. that expelled these 2 Cuban diplomats from the embassy here in Washington. It calls that action unjustified and unsubstantiated. Cuba says it would never allow this kind of action to occur on Cuban territory.
Steve Dorsey, thank you very much.
Thanks.